right. Thank you very much. And welcome to round two. And in this case, we're going to serve up a new person to answer the questions, and it'll be a bit of deja vu. You have heard these questions before, but now you're going to hear completely different answers. And as was the case before, I'm not going to read Governor Quinn's biography. Mary Sue and the organization have very adeptly put all of that stuff in. So we have to come up with some other kind of fun fact so that I can tell you something about the governor. And this fun fact that you may not know, I certainly haven't heard the governor tell this story, so is that Governor Quinn dunked a basketball back in 1968. Now, what makes this interesting is that his friends did not believe him. They did not believe that it had happened, so he did it again. He has not managed to dunk a basketball since. And given where we are in our stage of life, I think the possibility of it ever happening probably not going to happen. But there's your fun fact for the governor, and thanks for being a good sport for that, Governor Quinn.
Good to see you there, Greg.
Good to see you.
All right, over here. Okay. So, my kids have both dunked basketball more than twice. They did it in the same playground I did, and the day that happened, they said they now have the family record. So I'm not going to break that. But I appreciate the opportunity of MPC to be here today. It's a great organization. I think the history is it began in the 1930s and started with housing, and I know you're going to ask the questions, but I want to be the housing governor. I think I am, and look forward to answering any and all questions.
Okay, well, and Governor, thank you very much. Pleasure to see you again. And now the governor is going to respond to the same questions Mr. Rauner did. So let's get started. Illinois is facing a $2 billion budget gap in fiscal year 2015, due in part to declining revenues as the temporary state income tax increase phases out. The state's deficit stands at $5 billion, while its $100 billion pension debt, the worst in the nation, looms large. So, Governor, what are your specific ideas for new revenues as well as cuts in spending to address both the budget gap and the deficit?
Well, we've cut spending in my 5 years as governor by billions of dollars, and I think it's important to continue on that path. We do that every fiscal year. Earlier this year, I proposed a budget that was praised by all three credit rating agencies. They said it was an affordable budget. We've paid down our debts in Illinois since I've been governor by about more than $6 billion. I think the amount of money owed right now is a little bit more than $3 billion. And we're very close to a 30-day cycle where we can pay our bills within 30 days. It took a lot of hard work to do that, a lot of tough decisions. Had to close facilities, about 50 facilities across Illinois, and make other economies as well. But earlier this year, I proposed a budget that relies on the income tax in order to continue to invest in education and other important public purposes, at the same time to make sure we continue to pay our bills. And the credit rating agencies, all three of them, said I had an affordable budget, one that was a reasonable way to go for our state, that would keep us on the right path. On the pension issue, there's no question it's a daunting challenge. I signed a law last December that I advocated for pension reform. It's a long, hard battle. It was a bipartisan bill that I signed into law with both Democrats and Republicans from the House and Senate on my side. And that law will now be reviewed ultimately by the Supreme Court. I believe it is constitutional, and it will put us on a path to eliminate a $100 billion liability. I did not create that liability. Governors before me, Republican and Democrat, did not pay annually the proper amount into the pension system. And I inherited this mess, this challenge, but every year I've been governor, all 5 years, we've put the proper amount of money into the pension system. We didn't certainly want to compound the problem, and I was the leader in getting a very important law passed, very difficult to pass, but necessary, and that's the pension reform proposal that we enacted. I've signed other pension reforms for local governments. I think it's important we get a handle on this situation. It does require political courage. You've got to do hard things. On the eve of the vote that we had last year, right before the vote, my opponent in this election was urging people not to vote for it, to sabotage the pension reform. I don't think that's the right way to go, and I stood fast, and we got the job done.
Governor, what is Plan B if the courts decide that that law is unconstitutional for changing benefits that were already earned?
Well, I think it is an important issue. The legislative branch of government has spoken by majority on this subject. The executive branch, that's the governor, signed it into law. The judicial branch will have its chance to review the matter. It's before a circuit court right now. Ultimately, this case will be a case of first impression, really, that will go to the Illinois Supreme Court. We always abide by the court decisions. If I don't believe that they will declare the law unconstitutional, I believe it is constitutional. But if that happens, we'll obviously have to roll up our sleeves and listen to the court guidance and act accordingly. The bottom line is you have to have a governor who does believe in a reasonable pension for those public employees, including teachers who have done good work and were entitled to a decent retirement. I tried as best I could in enacting the pension reform that is now before the courts to make sure it was fair. I don't believe in a 401k system. I don't think that's the right way to go. Again, my opponent wants to convert all of the public employees to that system. I don't think that's right. With respect to future employees of the state of Illinois, several years ago we passed that reform. I signed it into law. Again, I was criticized by some who didn't care for it, but it's worked well, and I think it will continue to work well. I think bottom line is, if a court tells you you have to do something differently, pay attention and act accordingly.
I don't believe I heard you touch on any new revenues. Do you not feel that there are new revenues that might be warranted to try to close this budget gap?
Well, I think the best way to get revenue is through a fair tax system. I am not for taxing consumption. I heard that somebody said that earlier today. That's just plain wrong. It's very regressive. It shifts the tax burden onto ordinary people, everyday people who live from paycheck to paycheck. Folks who are making the minimum wage are now going to have consumption taxes if someone else was elected. I've fought my whole life for a fair tax system based on ability to pay. I think that's a principle as old as the Bible. And check with Teddy Roosevelt, who lived more than 100 years ago, a Republican president. He understood how important it is to have an income tax system based on ability to pay. And I proposed a budget earlier this year that relies on the income tax to pay our bills, including our pension bills. And the system and the proposal that I put forward in our budget is affordable now and in the future. Illinois will not get into the very difficult situation that I inherited with a massive amount of unpaid pension liability debt, as well as other debt that was caused by the Great Recession. I think the best way to go is to have a fair tax system without loopholes that is based on ability to pay. Now, there's a crowd out there. They're very well-to-do. They've got a lot of money, and they don't want Illinois to have a fair tax system. They want to tax the consumption of everyday people and allow their investment income to get special breaks. I don't believe in special breaks for billionaires and tax bills for everyday people. I don't think that's fair, and that's why I'm running for governor for re-election.
Okay. Thank you, Governor. Moving on, but still going down the tax road a bit. Funding from the Illinois fuel tax, which has not been increased since 1990, will fall by more than 36% through 2040, even as federal funding for transportation infrastructure continues to decline. So to keep Metropolitan Chicago's roads and transit in a state of good repair and accomplish the enhancements identified in our region's plan called Go to 2040, the shortfall totals $43.5 billion. So, Governor, do you support raising Illinois' gas tax? If not, what new revenues do you propose to dedicate to transportation infrastructure, if any?
I do not support raising the gas tax. Matter of fact, there was an effort 5 years ago to try to raise the gas tax, and I stopped that. We did pass what's called Illinois Jobs Now, which is a $31 billion investment in infrastructure in our state, a lot of it on transportation. And we got that done without raising the gas tax, with relying on other revenues, including closing loopholes. And that was the biggest infrastructure investment in the whole United States of any state in the union. And things like Lower Wacker Drive have been repaired. We're working right now on the Circle Interchange, which has been a bottleneck for many people for many years. If anybody here has ever had to wait at Dan Ryan or Kennedy or Eisenhower in that interchange, we got to do something about it. It's important to reduce congestion, to reduce emissions, to have more public safety. And our program of transportation that doesn't rely on a higher gas tax has done about 8,000 miles of road or repair and new roads in Illinois. And it also has done 1,486 bridges, very important for our safety. I believe we need to continue to invest in that. This past year, I was able, through the legislature in a bipartisan way, to get more than $1 billion new investment in our roads just for this construction season. And also related to it is our tollway system. And I want to thank Paula Wolf for her leadership. She's the chairman of the board there. I appointed her. We have a bipartisan tollway board that's made major reforms in our transportation system. We're connecting I-57 and I-294. My microphone, I think, is going here and there. I know how to shout if I have to. But I think it's real important. I think it's very, very important for the south part of our metropolitan region to have excellent transportation and to have two major interstates, 294 and 57, intersect but not connect. That wasn't right, and I wanted to do something about it, and we are. And that first phase of that will be done this fall. We're also doing the Elgin O'Hare Expressway. We're making Jane Addams Expressway a 21st century road all the way from O'Hare to Rockford. And I think it's very important that we do invest in transportation, but not rely on regressive levies like the gas tax. I think we have many loopholes in the Illinois tax code. I just signed a bill a month or so ago, closing one of them, and I think we need to close more of them and use that revenue to really invest in our infrastructure, and not just roads and bridges, but also building school buildings. We have invested greatly in our rail transportation, unsnarling bottlenecks, great separations between highways and railroads. We've also invested a lot in mass transit, public transit. Metro was able to get over $500 million of new rail cars, and they're made right here in Illinois, in Rochelle, Illinois, by Nippon Sharyo, that we were able to get to our state. So there's many, many transportation needs, and the best way to do it is another infrastructure bill. I got the last one passed. It had been 10 years since we invested in infrastructure in Illinois. I was in office 10 weeks, and we got that done. A bill that has really become a law now and helped many, many people have jobs and improve our economic situation, and we got to keep on doing it.
Thank you for that. And I think while I'm getting this other question out of the way, maybe we can get somebody up to check the connection that the governor's mic has.
I believe in connectivity. That's a good thing. Yes.
He's so animated. It might be.
Okay.
Or better still, we
can
get
a new equipment here. Huh? Yeah. Okay.
And thank you for your patience, Governor. And
I got to get everything in my pocket.
we will pretend the clock stopped.
All right.
So we've got to.
There's no time limits, huh?
Yeah. Well, I'm not going that far.
Right.
I know you. All right. One quick follow-up, and that's to get more bang for the buck. Do you support using performance measures to select Illinois' transportation investments? For example, prioritizing new road and transit projects if they measure up.
I think that is important, a very important measure, having performance measurements. We have a big state. We're the longest state, I think, east of the Mississippi River, from northern Illinois to southern Illinois. Many transportation needs across our state. We just built a bridge across the Mississippi River at East St. Louis to St. Louis. It's the San Musial Veterans Memorial Bridge. It met all the performance requirements. And we also did it with a very diverse workforce that I strongly believe in. 24% of the men and women who worked on that bridge, about a $400 million project, were African American from the community. Same way here in Metropolitan Chicago. I want to make sure that all our public works and transportation and everything else are done by our diverse workforce. We have training programs that our state actually runs and funds in order to make sure that folks with an interest in construction get an opportunity to get the training and get a job.
Okay. Turning to our next question. Due to more frequent and intense storms, urban areas around the region are more prone than ever to costly flooding. Many of the region's aging pipes, pumps, and sewers are near or past their useful life. So the question is, what can the state do to more efficiently direct dedicated and new revenues to repair and replace traditional water infrastructure like pipes, pumps, and sewers, and to reward communities that invest in green infrastructure such as green roofs and bioswales?
And rain barrels. We have rain barrels at the governor's mansion. I believe in what's called green infrastructure. It could be a rain garden. Matter of fact, there's a school up in Des Plaines that I've worked with. The principal every day would see, every time it rained hard, would see the back of the school flooded out. One day she said, we have to do something about it when two of her students brought a canoe to school and started paddling in the back of the school. And it was interesting, we worked with the Center for Neighborhood Technology, and they planted a rain garden with the students, and they've never had flooding problems since. These rain gardens have deep roofs, and so things like bioswales and rain gardens and rain barrels, all of us can play a role in that. I think I just signed a bill that allows our Clean Water Initiative that I started a couple years ago to invest in our water infrastructure, to include floodwater, stormwater management, and dealing with flooding. We know flooding just from this past week. It's very important we make these investments in green opportunities, but also in the traditional investment in pipes. We have some water pipes and mains here in Chicago that were built during the time of Ulysses S. Grant, President Grant, that only, I think Craig Dellamore was covering at the time. But you were there then when it first started. But the bottom line is we've got to work to invest with the Metropolitan Water Reclamation District and city water departments across Illinois on replacing our infrastructure. I was down in Pekin, Illinois. We were doing a wastewater treatment plant with our Clean Water Initiative, which is run by the state of Illinois, our EPA, as well as our finance authority. It's very, very successful. Municipalities, water districts have signed on with us. In Pekin, they had a wastewater treatment plant that was keeping sewage coming into the Illinois River, source of drinking water for thousands of people. And it involved all 15 trades that were involved in this. So it creates jobs. It really helps us. Many, many businesses, one of the first things they ask about is what is your water situation? And I would say to all of those dealing with flooding, we had a very bad flood last year in Illinois in April. I got a call at 3 in the morning. I was at the governor's mansion, and the water was arising in 49 different counties across Illinois, and we had to act, and we acted swiftly. We understand how important it is to prevent flooding and deal with issues that can help with stormwater management, and so we're going to be very aggressive on that. Mark Twain, American writer who lived near water, Mississippi River, he said, whiskey's for drinking and water's worth fighting for. Okay?
All right. We will move on to the next question. And this is about how government deals with governments. The state's local government consolidation task force recently released an assessment of the myriad challenges associated with having 7,000 plus units of local government throughout Illinois, including that in the enabling statutes for many of those entities, there is no established process for dissolving them. Services that smaller single-purpose governments provide are often inefficient or of substandard quality. However, the task force also determined that elimination or consolidation of those units may not result in savings to taxpayers, and that cooperation or collaboration can be more impactful in terms of savings. That was the wind-up. Here's the pitch of the actual question. What is your plan to improve the efficiency and quality of local government service delivery and to get to the right amount of local governments in Illinois?
Well, I think local government is very, very important. Our mayors and our county board members, folks who work across Illinois, work very hard on important missions. And I, as governor, have really enjoyed working with them. You know, our park districts in Illinois, we're blessed by having so many park districts that are really focused on delivery of service. I'm going to be doing some things this weekend with our parks. Just down in East St. Louis, their swimming pool is no longer functional. Their park district, none of those trustees get paid a dime. They do it out of love of the community, and we had to get a new swimming pool for them, and our state helped invest in that. And so whether you're a mayor or a county board member or any other unit of government, we want to make sure they are delivering what they're supposed to for the public. I have supported, and I will continue to support, really serious looks at the number of school districts we have in Illinois. Some of them are very small, and they would be better, I think, working to consolidate some of the school districts. We've proposed that. It's quite a challenge, and we want to keep on working on it to make sure that the money we give for education is really focused on the classroom. And all these units of government, we don't want to be the land of bureaucracy. We want to focus all of our government attention on delivery of services to everyday people and to businesses. So I really think we need a strong look at this. Friend of mine, he's a Republican, he's a county board chairman in DuPage County, Dan Cronin, and he came to my office a year or two ago and gave some ideas about how to consolidate governments in DuPage County, where he resides and leads the effort, and we got that passed. I helped him out, and I signed the bill in the county where I grew up in, DuPage, and I think that is a model for a lot of other metropolitan counties. Take a look at what DuPage County has done, and this is not an impossible chore. We can do it together in a way that doesn't hamper service to everyday people. If your park district is delivering for people, we want to make sure it's alive and well.
But are you finding other county governments or any other entities coming to you also proposing this kind of legislation, or was DuPage unique?
Well, I do think that a lot of the county governments and other governments kind of wanted to see how DuPage fared in their mission. I think they've done pretty well. And I think this is something that we want to encourage all of the local government officials all over our state. We have 102 counties. This is the time to really pay attention to this, because I think the taxpayers do not want duplicative offices and administrative assistants and things like that. If we can consolidate and do it in an efficient way that delivers service, I think there's a lot of enthusiasm by local government officials for that. And I work with Dan Biss, for example, up in Evanston. As you know, they had a township government, which was coterminous with their municipal city government, and I believe they abolished the township government. And if that is what people want by referendum, I think that's something to pay attention to.
Okay, and now for a topic that you touched on right at the top, and that is housing. As income and inequality gaps widen, Illinois and metropolitan Chicago are grappling with delivering on a high quality of life for all residents. Still, Illinois leads the nation in foreclosure filings. Blight and disinvestment plague many communities. Meanwhile, there are other communities in the state that have rebounded economically and are experiencing job growth, rising home values, and new construction starts. So, Governor, in light of the declining state and federal resources for housing, social services, and community development, how would you allocate these dollars to ensure affordable housing investment in both profitable markets and for those that are distressed?
Okay, number one, our state is investing in housing. I got a law passed 5 years ago that for the first time invested capital money from the state of Illinois in housing, $130 million. And we've worked with our Illinois Housing Development Authority to build housing units, multifamily units, especially supportive housing units. Over 2,000 have been built. And what are supportive units? Sometimes they're housing for homeless veterans. Sometimes they're housing for people who are institutionalized now. I don't believe in institutionalization. I think it's much better to have community care where folks have housing in the neighborhood. We've invested heavily in that. We have court decisions from the federal government called Olmstead. We've engaged in consent decrees on 3 different occasions to provide more housing in the community for people with disabilities and needs. And that's oftentimes has to be supportive housing where we make investments to help people pay the rent and so on. Now, on the area of mortgages, I serve as the state treasurer. I believe in housing as a key part of our economy. And one thing we did this past year is we started a new mortgage program called Welcome Home Illinois, a 4% interest rate, $7,500 in closing cost assistance. It's a 30-year mortgage. It's safe and affordable under IDA, which has had a remarkable record over many, many years of safe mortgages that are done right. And we've had over 5,500 people get mortgages just since the beginning of April. And then we have another 1,700 veterans in a separate program called Welcome Home Heroes who've been able to get an affordable mortgage. And I believe this is a key part of our economy related to fighting foreclosure. We were one of the best states in the union at taking federal money that we received to make sure that folks who were in danger of being foreclosed upon got the resources necessary to, they lost their jobs through no fault of their own. We didn't want them to lose their homes. And we had an excellent program that helped them stay in their homes. And we've worked with a lot of communities where there is foreclosed homes in their community on something called building blocks, which is very successful at using municipal governments to rehab the home and then sell it to somebody in the community to buy that home. So our hardest hit program helped a lot of people avoid foreclosure. And with respect to building things up in communities, we want to take any foreclosed home on a block and make sure we quickly address that, and that's part of our housing agenda.
Governor, for the state to continue investing in housing, where is the money coming from that? Is it primarily borrowing, or are you contemplating new revenue?
Well, you can leverage money. A lot of times you leverage with public money, you can leverage private money from financial institutions that invest in housing. With respect to our mortgage program, I'm going to make a decision very shortly, probably invest another $25 million of public money in order to help our Welcome Home Illinois mortgages. This is a fantastic program. I've been all over the state. I've stood by hardworking people, everyday people who want the American dream. They want that one home. I only own one home. I run against somebody with 9 mansions, but I think it's important to realize that one home of everyday people is the #1 investment they'll make in their whole life. And we want to help them do that because all kinds of studies have shown if you invest in housing, it has a multiplier effect in the community. Homeowners buy things locally. They patronize local businesses. They get involved in their community. They're involved with law enforcement and everything else. So I think that's a great investment by our state of investing in a program where private banks are really issuing the mortgages, safe and sound under our guidelines, but we help drive down the interest rate, provide that opportunity to get over the hump of closing costs and down payment. That is a good way to move forward, and it's done in a safe way, unlike what was done in the past by some of these wheeler dealers half dozen years ago who caused such great havoc in the American economy.
And Governor, thank you very much.
Done?
We are, again,
Oh,
under time, so thank you.
All right, okay. Thank you. Good to see you. Very good, Mary. Thank you. Very good. Okay. Very good.